"Your Royal Highness." Those 3 words, spoken by a court clerk in London, triggered a chain reaction so devastating that the entire British royal family fled the country to escape the fallout. Prince Harry sat in that witness box, heard himself addressed with the honorific he and Meghan supposedly rejected years ago, and instead of simply saying, "Call me Harry," he let it stand. He let the title hang in the air like a crown he refuses to put down. And folks, that single moment of ego, that desperate clinging to royal status, exposed everything the Sussexes have been trying to hide about who they really are and what they actually want. What unfolded in that London courtroom was nothing short of theatrical. Harry appeared emotional on the stand, reportedly getting a catch in his throat as he testified about press intrusion and hacking allegations. But here is where it gets fascinating. This case was supposed to be about his ex-girlfriends, Chelsea Davy, Cressida Bonas, the women from his past whose privacy was allegedly invaded. Yet somehow, inexplicably, Harry kept pivoting the testimony to make it about Meghan. He could not help himself. Even when the subject matter had nothing to do with his wife, he dragged her into the narrative like she was the real victim in a case about relationships that ended before she even entered his life. Sources who observed the proceedings described it as calculated chaos. One courtroom observer put it bluntly, saying he seemed determined to make this about his current situation rather than the actual claims at hand. The emotional moments appeared rehearsed, almost theatrical, with Harry's voice wavering at precisely the moments designed for maximum impact. Yet curiously, despite all the visible distress, no actual tears were spotted. Let that sink in for a moment. A man supposedly reliving traumatic invasions of privacy, yet the emotion seemed more performance than pain. Meanwhile, as Harry sat alone in that London courtroom making himself the center of attention, something extraordinary was happening across the United Kingdom. The entire royal family had vanished. King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Catherine, even Princess Anne, every single working royal had relocated to Scotland, putting as much physical distance between themselves and Harry's courthouse spectacle as geographically possible within the realm. The message could not have been clearer if they had written it in skywriting above Buckingham Palace. The palace's response was not just absence, it was a coordinated counter-programming assault that left Harry looking more isolated than ever. While he testified about decade-old text messages and alleged phone hacking, William was announcing a major diplomatic trip to Dubai. Catherine was photographed weaving at a Scottish heritage event, the picture of serene royal duty. The contrast was absolutely brutal, one brother desperately seeking sympathy in a courtroom, the other projecting confident leadership on the world stage, and insiders confirm this timing was anything but coincidental. Palace sources are now revealing what many suspected but few could confirm. The entire royal family's Scottish retreat was specifically orchestrated to coincide with Harry's court appearance, and the coordination required to pull it off was nothing short of military precision. This was not a casual family gathering that happened to overlap with Harry's testimony. This was strategic distancing executed at the highest levels of the monarchy. Let us break down exactly who fled and why. King Charles relocated to Balmoral despite having a packed schedule of London engagements. Queen Camilla accompanied him, clearing her diary of several charitable commitments that had been on the books for months. Prince William and Princess Catherine made the journey north with their children, turning what could have been a school week into an impromptu Scottish holiday. Even Princess Anne, who rarely alters her famously demanding schedule for anything, found reasons to be anywhere but England during Harry's time in the witness box. One senior palace insider explained the reasoning with brutal clarity. The king could not go anywhere near his son due to the ongoing court case and Harry's unpredictable temperament. Allow me to translate that from palace speak to plain English. Charles and his advisors were terrified that any proximity to Harry, any photograph that could be captured, any moment that might suggest family solidarity would be weaponized by the Sussexes for their own narrative, and given their track record, who could blame them? The legal reasoning was legitimate on its surface. With active litigation involving Harry, the king and other family members genuinely needed to maintain distance to avoid any appearance of influence or interference, but sources confirm the decision went far deeper than legal prudence. This was about sending an unmistakable message to Harry and the watching world. You are on your own. You chose this path. You wanted to air family grievances in courts and on Netflix. Now deal with the consequences alone. In the days leading up to Harry's testimony, several stories mysteriously appeared in British tabloids suggesting he might stay at Highgrove, his father's country estate, during his UK visit. Some outlets even hinted at a possible father-son reconciliation. Palace insiders have now confirmed these planted stories were deliberate misdirection, almost certainly originating from Sussex-aligned sources attempting to manufacture warmth where none existed. One source close to the king's office called it pathetic, really, saying they keep trying to create the impression of reconciliation when Charles has made his position abundantly clear. The reality was stark. Harry stayed in a London hotel. He attended court alone. He left alone. No family dinners, no private meetings, no photographs of royal solidarity. Just a prince without a kingdom, sitting in a witness box, fighting battles his family wants nothing to do with. The isolation was complete, and it was entirely intentional. But Harry's physical isolation in London was just the opening act of his humiliation that week, because what he revealed in that courtroom backfired in ways he clearly never anticipated. Here is where Harry's courtroom strategy completely collapsed on itself. In testimony that was supposed to garner sympathy about media intrusion, he inadvertently exposed details that created an entirely different scandal. Sources confirm that during his time on the stand, Harry acknowledged he maintains contact with several of his ex-girlfriends. Chelsea Davy, the one who got away, the woman he reportedly almost married before Meghan entered the picture. Harry admitted they still communicate. Now, under normal circumstances, maintaining friendly contact with former partners might seem mature, even admirable, but this is not a normal circumstance. This is a marriage where, according to multiple former staff members, Meghan Markle allegedly cannot tolerate any mention of Harry's previous life. One insider who worked closely with the couple put it bluntly, saying Harry is not allowed to discuss his past with Meghan in any meaningful way. Any reference to his life before her gets eye rolls at best, complete shutdown at worst. So imagine her reaction watching her husband testify, under oath in front of the world, that he still talks to the ex she reportedly despises most. The emotional theatrics during testimony raised eyebrows among those who observed closely. Harry appeared to get choked up at strategic moments, his voice wavering as he described feeling violated by press intrusion. Yet multiple courtroom observers noted something peculiar. Despite the visible distress, despite the catch in his throat and the apparent emotional struggle, no actual tears materialized. One journalist present described it as theatrical at best, saying he knew exactly when to show emotion, and it always coincided with the most sympathetic parts of his testimony. But here is what really raised alarm bells. This case was fundamentally about Harry's past relationships and alleged phone hacking related to those women. Yet repeatedly, inexplicably, Harry pivoted his testimony to make it about Meghan. He brought her into discussions where she had no relevance. He framed himself as defending her honor even when the questions were about Chelsea or Cressida. One legal observer noted it seemed like Harry was being coached to make Meghan the victim of a case that had nothing to do with her. Perhaps most damning was Harry's direct challenge to the royal family's long-standing motto of never complain, never explain. From the witness stand, he essentially blamed his family for not fighting the press more aggressively, for not taking legal action sooner, for maintaining a dignified silence he now characterizes as neglect. The irony is absolutely staggering. The man who has complained publicly more than any royal in modern history, who has explained his grievances in memoirs, documentaries, and countless interviews, criticizing his family for not complaining enough. Sources close to Prince William reportedly reacted to this testimony with cold fury. One person familiar with William's thinking said he views Harry's courtroom performance as yet another betrayal, another attempt to rewrite history and cast himself as the victim of family neglect. The working royals stayed silent publicly, but the private reaction was apparently volcanic. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Meghan was conspicuously absent from Harry's side during this grueling legal ordeal, and what she was doing instead revealed priorities that left even her supporters stunned. While Harry sat alone in a London courtroom, fighting legal battles and defending their shared reputation, Meghan Markle was working the phones with singular focus, but she was not calling to support her husband. She was not arranging to fly to London to stand by his side during this difficult time. No, according to multiple sources, Meghan was desperately trying to secure an invitation to fashion designer Valentino Garavani's memorial service in Rome. The legendary designer had passed away, and Meghan allegedly wanted in on the exclusive gathering of fashion royalty. Let the hypocrisy of this sink in for a moment. This is the same woman who has repeatedly claimed she feels unsafe in the United Kingdom. The same woman who has cited security concerns as the reason she cannot accompany Harry to his home country. The same woman whose absence from Queen Elizabeth's final days was explained away with vague references to personal safety. Yet apparently she felt perfectly safe attempting to fly to Rome for a networking opportunity disguised as mourning. Sources claim Meghan began making calls almost immediately after news of Valentino's death broke. She reportedly reached out to anyone who might have connections to the memorial service, anyone who could get her through those exclusive doors. One fashion industry insider described it as desperate and a little sad, saying she was calling people she had met once or twice, trying to leverage any connection she could find. Meghan did have some legitimate fashion world connections to draw upon. She had attended Paris Fashion Week and made appearances linked to the former creative director of the Valentino house. But apparently, even those tenuous relationships were not enough. According to reports, despite her efforts, Meghan did not receive an invitation to the memorial. The fashion world, it seems, saw through the opportunism. One source close to the fashion industry offered a brutal assessment, saying people in that world talk, and they know Meghan is about Meghan. She wanted to be photographed at Valentino's memorial, looking mournful and fashionable. It had nothing to do with actually knowing the man or honoring his legacy. The contrast with her husband's situation could not have been more stark. Harry was in London, alone, testifying about deeply personal matters, facing hostile cross-examination, enduring what he has described as one of the most stressful experiences of his life. His wife's response was to hunt for party invitations in Italy. When asked to comment on Meghan's absence from Harry's court appearance, Sussex representatives offered only vague statements about scheduling conflicts and prior commitments. Prior commitments. Allow me to translate. She had more important things to do than support the man she claims is her soulmate during his legal ordeal. She had fashion funerals to crash, networking to pursue, her personal brand to promote. Harry's needs, apparently, ranked somewhere below securing a front-row seat at an Italian memorial service. But the Valentino snub was just the latest indicator of something far more troubling about Meghan's standing in the circles she desperately wants to penetrate. Industry insiders are saying what many have suspected for months, and their assessment is absolutely devastating. In Hollywood terms, Meghan Markle is dead. Those are not my words. That is the brutal verdict from multiple entertainment industry sources who have watched the Sussex brand implode in spectacular fashion. The loss of Netflix, they say, signals more than just a canceled show. It signals the end of her relevance in an industry that only cares about what you can deliver. Let us tally the wreckage, shall we? The Netflix deal, the cornerstone of their post-royal financial empire, has crumbled. With Love, Meghan, her lifestyle show that was supposed to establish her as the next domestic goddess, was cancelled before most viewers even knew it existed. HUMILIATIng, the foundation that was going to change the world with compassionate storytelling and innovative programming, has been downsized to a skeleton operation. And here is a statistic that should haunt the Sussex PR team. Meghan has been voted the most disliked member of the extended royal family for 4 consecutive years. 4 years running. That is not a blip. That is a pattern. Then there is As Ever, Meghan's luxury lifestyle brand that launched with such fanfare and such astronomical price points. Reports indicate the company is sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of unsold inventory, the jam that cost more than some people's hourly wage, apparently not flying off the shelves. The homeware items priced for billionaires? Collecting dust. One retail industry analyst described it as a complete misread of the market, saying she launched a luxury brand during a cost of living crisis, targeting customers who mostly cannot stand her. But here is where it gets truly embarrassing. When With Love, Meghan premiered to dismal numbers and devastating reviews, Meghan took to Instagram with a declaration that the show had been renewed for a second series, celebration emojis, gratitude posts, the whole performance. There was just one problem. According to multiple industry sources, no such renewal had been formally announced by Netflix. Meghan was apparently jumping the gun, putting out information that was at best premature and at worst completely fabricated. One entertainment reporter who covers streaming deals put it bluntly, saying, "You do not announce your own renewal," noting that is not how it works. The network announces it, unless of course there is nothing to announce and you are just trying to control the narrative. That is exactly what insiders believe happened. Meghan, watching her show fail in real time, allegedly manufactured positive news to counter the negative headlines. The strategy backfired when Netflix remained conspicuously silent about any second season commitment. Sources say the desperation inside the Montecito mansion has reached fever pitch. Every venture fails, every brand launch flops, every attempt to reclaim relevance backfires. And now, with nowhere else to turn, the Sussexes have made a shocking decision about their public relations strategy. The Sussexes have rehired Sunshine Sachs. Let that sink in for a moment. After cycling through 11, yes 11, different publicists and PR professionals, Harry and Meghan have crawled back to the same firm Meghan once reportedly raged at over a headline she deemed racist. The desperation could not be more palpable if they printed it on a billboard over Sunset Boulevard. Here is the backstory that makes this reunion so absolutely remarkable. Back when Meghan and Harry's relationship first went public, Sunshine Sachs handled her personal publicity. They secured a Vanity Fair cover story, a massive coup for any actress, let alone one dating a prince. The headline read, "She's just wild about Harry," a reference to a classic song and a phrase that had been used positively about Harry since his birth. British tabloids had employed that exact wording for decades when describing public affection for the younger prince. Meghan's response? According to multiple sources, she erupted. She allegedly called the headline racist, despite its long history of innocent usage related to Harry specifically. She reportedly raged at the publicity team for allowing such a thing to be printed. The relationship with Sunshine Sachs soured, and Meghan moved on to the first of what would become many replacements. Now, after burning through nearly a dozen PR professionals, after alienating firms across 2 continents, after developing a reputation in the industry for being impossible to satisfy, the Sussexes have returned to the company Meghan once allegedly accused of racism. If that is not a white flag of surrender, I do not know what is. Industry experts note that Sunshine Sachs specializes in legacy building over time, the slow, careful cultivation of public image through sustained positive coverage. This approach is the exact exact opposite of Harry and Meghan's established pattern of reactive crisis management and combative media relations. One PR veteran observed that Sunshine Sachs builds brands brick by brick while the Sussexes want instant gratification and lash out when they do not get it. The fundamental problem, according to those familiar with both parties, is that the Sussexes want reputation repair without changing any of the behaviors that damage their reputation in the first place. One source put it perfectly, saying you cannot fix a brand when the product keeps malfunctioning, adding that no PR team can save clients from themselves. Multiple former Sussex employees have spoken anonymously about the impossible working conditions, the constant demands, the midnight phone calls, the expectation of absolute loyalty, combined with the reality of being thrown under the bus when things go wrong. Sunshine Sachs, with its corporate structure and established protocols, may be better positioned to handle difficult clients than individual publicists. But even they will face the same fundamental obstacle that has defeated everyone before them, and that obstacle has a name. Actually, it has two names, and neither seems capable of understanding why their approach keeps failing. Behind Harry's courtroom insistence on being addressed as His Royal Highness lies something far more revealing about the Sussex dynamic. Sources close to former staff members say this title obsession is driven primarily by Meghan, who allegedly sees the royal designation as her ticket to permanent A-list status. She does not just want to be Meghan Markle, actress and activist. She wants to be Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, forever and always, regardless of whether she actually performs any royal duties. The evidence for this fixation is everywhere once you start looking. Meghan reportedly sends private correspondence on cards styled with royal insignia and honorifics. She has been known to introduce herself using her full title at events where such formality is neither expected nor appropriate. At a Harper's Bazaar event that made headlines for all the wrong reasons, Meghan was announced with her complete royal styling, every title and honorific included, to a room that was conspicuously empty of the audience such an introduction would suggest. Let us be brutally honest about what we are witnessing. Harry and Meghan left the royal family in a blaze of righteous indignation. They rejected the institution. They called it racist. They accused family members of cruelty and neglect. They built their entire post-royal brand on the narrative that they were escaping a toxic system that had imprisoned them. And yet they cling to royal titles more desperately than working royals who actually earn their honorifics through daily duty and service. One royal commentator described it as the ultimate contradiction, saying they want all the prestige and none of the responsibility, all the recognition and none of the accountability. The working royals show up. They cut ribbons. They visit hospitals. They represent the nation abroad. Harry and Meghan want the same status while living in Montecito and producing content about themselves. The fixation on being called Her Royal Highness rather than Markle reportedly represents Meghan's desire to shed her previous identity entirely. One source described it as erasure, saying she wants to disappear the actress, the first marriage, the cable television career, adding that she wants to have always been a duchess. The problem is that institutions have memories, and the British monarchy has the longest memory of all. King Charles stripped Harry and Meghan of their working royal status and their right to use HRH in official contexts. Yet they continue using the titles in their own communications, on their website, in their public appearances. It is as though they believe if they just keep claiming the status loudly enough, reality will eventually bend to their will. This identity crisis has created an impossible situation that affects far more than just their public image. Sources who worked closely with the Sussex household have revealed patterns that help explain Harry's increasingly isolated position. According to these former staff members, Harry is not allowed to discuss his previous life with Meghan in any meaningful way. The years before he met her, the relationships, the friendships, the memories, all of it is allegedly off limits. Any reference to pre-Meghan Harry reportedly receives eye rolls, dismissive responses, or outright shutdown. The theory circulating among royal watchers is that Harry never truly got over Chelsea Davy. She was his longest relationship, his college sweetheart, the woman who understood his world because she came from a similar background of privilege and expectation. Multiple sources have suggested that Meghan's apparent jealousy of Harry's past drives her alleged control over his memories. If Harry cannot discuss his former life, the logic goes, he cannot compare his current situation unfavorably to what came before. Harry has reportedly been attempting to reposition himself away from the celebrity ventures that have defined the Sussex brand. Instead of lifestyle shows and podcast deals, he wants to be seen as an army veteran advocate. He wants to lead with his military service and his genuine passion for wounded warriors rather than his wife's entertainment industry aspirations. The problem is that Meghan's influence over their shared brand makes any independent repositioning nearly impossible. During his UK visit for the court case, sources say Harry reached out through intermediaries hoping to reconnect with William, He specifically wanted to discuss Invictus Games Matters, the veteran-focused initiative that represents his most successful independent venture. William's response, according to those familiar with the exchange, was a flat refusal. No meeting, no conversation, not even an acknowledgement. William reportedly views any contact with Harry as potentially being weaponized for Sussex publicity purposes. One person close to Prince William explained the thinking with devastating clarity. Every time William has extended any warmth toward Harry, it has ended up twisted in some Sussex narrative or leaked to friendly media. He will not give them more ammunition. The trust is completely gone. Harry, it seems, is learning that some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt regardless of how desperately you might want to cross them again. The question that now hangs over everything the Sussexes do is whether 2026, the year many royal watchers have identified as make or break for the couple, will determine their future, or whether their fate has already been sealed. So here we are, watching the wreckage of what was once billed as the greatest royal love story of our generation. Harry exposed family secrets in court, hoping for public sympathy, and received instead a coordinated family rejection so total that every single working royal fled the country rather than be associated with his testimony. He sat alone in that witness box, clinging to titles he says he rejected, defending a wife who could not be bothered to support him because she was too busy hunting for fashion funeral invitations in Rome. The fundamental disconnect at the heart of the Sussex situation has never been clearer. Harry, whether he admits it publicly or not, wants back into royal life. He wants reconciliation with William. He wants his children to know their grandfather, the king. He wants the security, the structure, and yes, the status that comes with being part of the most famous family on earth. Meanwhile, Meghan appears entirely focused on Hollywood, fashion circles, and building her personal brand as far from royal duty as possible. The Kardashian party incident that emerged recently tells you everything you need to know about this dynamic. Harry was reportedly the wanted guest, the one with the invitation, the draw. Meghan, according to sources, essentially crashed the event, attaching herself to an invitation that was extended to her husband alone. She is trading on his royal connections while he is desperate for the family ties she has helped sever. Consider what we have witnessed in just this single news cycle. Harry alone in court, emotional and theatrical, exposing details about ex-girlfriends while his wife worked phones in California. The entire royal family strategically relocating to Scotland to avoid any association with his legal battles. Meghan being rejected from a fashion memorial despite desperate attempts to secure entry. The couple returning to a PR firm, Meghan once allegedly accused of racism because no one else will work with them. Titles being clung to like life rafts while the ship continues to sink. Given everything we have seen, and I mean really seen, the pattern of behavior, the failed ventures, the burning bridges, the increasing isolation, do you genuinely believe there is any path back for Harry? Or has Meghan's influence permanently severed his royal ties in ways that cannot be repaired? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting and you will not believe what is coming next.